You're going to do meetings. This is the operating model for having meetings. These are the steps you follow. Let me give you an example. For example, when we go in there, we provide proven operating models. And the first norm of operation of meetings that we implement is if you can't clearly set and communicate the tangible deliverables you need to get from the meeting, you cannot call the meeting, period.
Oh, wow.
Period. And if you get called to a meeting
Yeah.
that does not have a clear description of the deliverables that need to be covered, you can refuse to attend the meeting.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Reanimated Stories. This is Roger from Reanimation Design, and today I have Alberto. And I know Alberto from a couple of different things, but specifically from a organization that we have worked at for a couple of years, and well, a volun work, I like to say. And it has been a pleasure and a joy to really get to know Alberto. And we're going to learn a little bit more about him. Alberto, thank you so much for coming out today.
Well, and again, thank you, Roger, for having me. And like you said, we've known each other quite a long time by now, volunteering at HR. And I really love what you do. And it's such a pleasure to be here. And well, as you know, I worked basically on helping people collaborate or perform better day to day. It's interesting. It's something I got into without thinking about it. It's kind of path. I'm a cultural anthropologist, and I began teaching intercultural understanding many years ago back in Mexico City. Actually, I created the first intercultural training firm in Mexico back in the 1980s. And I can't believe how old I am.
Oh, wow.
You know, a real turning point is that I began to understand culture as a system because of coming from cultural anthropology. It's not so much as a soft thing. And because I was working with all these executives and multicultural teams in global companies in Mexico City, I started learning that they saw culture as this soft thing. And I was scratching my head and going like, why? I mean, it is a system. Why? So that was one part kind of stuck in the back of my head. But I still remember.
Really quick. Yeah. When you say they see it as a soft thing, are you talking it like in a corporate sort of setting, like just kind of like, well, it's there, or could you explain that a little bit more? What you mean by that?
In almost everybody in HR says the soft quality, the soft skills.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah.
It's like saying, oh, you know, if you're training to run a machine or you're training to put the numbers in an administrative in a company, those are hard skills. But if you're training, if you're talking about culture or leadership or communication, those are soft skills. And I was wondering why.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for me, my perspective, it was the same thing. It's how to run things, how to operate something, how to manage something. So for the life of me, and still 40 years, 50 years later, I still scratch my head and go like, why soft and hard? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Well, I get it by now, right? but it's a conception that people have.
Yeah.
But talking about this thing, collaboration in organizations based on integrating, and I'm going to use these terms that might sound strange or alien to people, integrating the collaboration system in organizations. And when I say collaboration system, people immediately think of computers and software and all that. No. I mean, the day-to-day collaboration. But I still remember, I was sitting at a meeting. I was advising a joint venture between MCI, the American company. No, I think they no longer this, but it was like a telecom company, MCI, and I don't know, Mexican company. They joined together to create a telecom company in Mexico back in the 1990s. And I was sitting there and I was listening. I was brought in as an intercultural consultant because they had German engineers and American engineers and American people and Mexicans all working together. So I was there, you know, kind of training everybody and getting them to understand each other. And I was sitting in this meeting and I was watching everybody not understanding each other. And I was going like, why? We've been through the paces. They know about the different cultures. And then it hit me by listening. They didn't understand each other, not because they were Germans and Americans and Mexicans. They weren't understanding each other because they were engineers talking to administrative, talking to accountants, talking to salespeople. Yeah. And it really hit me hard. I was like, oh boy, these are different cultures, but not because they come from different places. It's just an engineer thinks totally different than a lawyer, and I think
Yeah. Yep.
totally different than a salesperson. So we're talking a whole different level of intercultural understanding within the organization.
Yeah.
It's the different,
Yeah.
the different professional cultures, the different, even the different personal cultures. And
Yeah.
so I started going like, why is nobody doing something about this? It's not about intercultural. There's a bunch of that, but not about this. And I started looking for how to integrate collaboration language in collaboration. I didn't have the name collaboration system. Just I said the language of collaboration, the way of collaborating. And there was nothing out there. Nothing. It was all like, oh, you gotta talk more, you gotta understand each other. You gotta, I was like, yeah, but where's the system? Where's the protocol, the
Yeah.
models? Because by then I had learned how companies manage different systems like operations, production, quality, administrative, financial. They all manage them like systems. And over here, there was this huge thing hurting everybody. And they kept saying, oh, we got to talk more. We got to have better communication. And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, just a little thought pill for everybody. Back in the 1980s, when I started, people were complaining about toxic bosses and meetings that got nowhere. And there was no email, but it was memorandums flying back and forth with no reason and just creating busy work and phone calls that didn't make any sense. And guess what? Right now, I go to a meetings or whatever, or conferences, probably you too, and people are complaining about what? Toxic bosses, emails that get nowhere,
Yeah.
meetings that get nowhere, that performance. Well, it's the same thing. Because of that approach, HR hasn't solved a single big issue in human communication,
Mm.
human collaboration for the last 60 years. We're stuck in
Wow.
the same place. And you've heard those things too, probably. Oh, my boss is stuck. Oh,
Yeah.
we got this. Oh, we got that. We're wasting time in meetings. It's like the same old song. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. It's the same thing, just 60 years later, same thing.
and
Yeah.
maybe and it's gotten even worse because we only used to have like meetings, phone calls, and paper memorandums. Nowadays, you got all this kind of stuff flying at you from different places, and
Yeah.
most of it doesn't have any value, and most of the interaction
Yeah.
and within organization. So the proof is right there. I mean, when I tell people what HR is doing is not working, the proof is right there. I mean, in quality, you go to factories and you check quality, and they solved all the issues in safety,
Mm.
in
Yeah.
compliance, in administrative, and everything that they call the hard sciences, the hard brain, hard problems. We've made huge strides. Let's not even go about
Yeah.
technology. Whoa, okay, IT and all that. It's evolution. But HR stuck with the same old thing, same world way of thinking about these issues. And on the other side, compliance. Yeah, compliance just keeps chugging along. But in this other part, they're doing the same thing that they've been doing for, I don't know, the last decades. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's been interesting. So one of the things that Alberto, as I mentioned, one of the things that Alberto and I know each other from is from Disrupt HR. And Alberto's also the head of Disrupt HR Houston. And so when I was brought into Austin, I didn't have anything to do with HR, right? I was like, I'm a web designer. I do marketing. What do I'm not in a corporate setting, right? But after being in the meetings, as we've kind of talked about different things, and then seeing the talks that came through, and as you're mentioning, it's like HR hasn't changed. It's the same thing that it was in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, right? And it's just it's a new time with the same old problems, and it's like, oh well, we're going to do this, and it's like, well, nope, we're just still doing the same thing. And it's been so interesting to see that in the different talks, as what you're saying is like that people have talked about, at Austin and Houston, they've talked about, AI, and they've talked about compliance, and they've talked about like, why are we being siloed? Why are we siloing ourselves? Why are we doing all of these things and not getting anywhere? And I think that's such an interesting concept, because not necessarily having been in that, I didn't really see that, but hearing that kind of over and over and over again, and even just kind of working with and talking with some people in HR, it's been interesting to see that. And I think what's really interesting about something that you do when you come in is that you really start to help them kind of like you said, it's this idea of like, why is there a hard skill and a soft skill? And I think that that's really cool that you said that, because as I've been listening more and more, and as we've talked, really bringing in that culture is not a soft skill like that. Like, I don't know why we're bringing up these dichotomies of like, okay, sure. Yeah. Knowing how to code or something like that. Right. Like that's okay. I get that. Like that's a hard skill. Right. I don't know why we're necessarily having to, bring these dichotomies between that, because coming into a culture like that's, and doing something about that, that's something that's really important. And I think that kind of transcends that. So when you go into when you're helping a client, when you're looking at that, what are some of the things that you're looking for, that you're listening for as you're going in to a company to help them kind of figure out, okay, how are we going to make this more productive? How are we going to actually put your system into place? And can you talk a little bit about that?
So that's a great question. Yeah. And just for the record here, you're going to hear right now took almost 12 years to develop, because like I said, when I started looking around, there was nothing about this.
Yeah.
So fortunately, as you also know, I lived with Japanese 7 years of my life, studied martial arts and philosophy and a bunch of stuff. But I also learned about Kaizen, which means doing it better, and lean, and all this Japanese mindset of always improving and managing things. Actually, there's a Japanese saying that became popular in the States: if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And if you can't manage it, you can't make it better. And that's totally true. I mean, you can kind of be stumbling around without data, without analysis, without anything, and just get lucky. or make this enough times that you finally learn and go like, okay, I'm not going to do this again. Or you can do it, the old saying, don't work hard, work smart.
Smart.
And the only way to work smart is to work through data and analysis. That's the only way I'm planning. So what do we do? Okay, the first thing is try to agree with leadership that there's no such thing as soft skills. For example, what's a meeting? Having good meetings. If you look at all the articles and podcasts and everything about having good meetings, it's all about, you got to learn and you got to focus and you got to do this and focus the meeting and everybody's got to put in their, okay, let's bring it down to realities. When I ask people, what's a meeting? And the usual answer is, it's when we all get together to try to solve something or whatever. I tell them, okay, let's dial it back. A meeting is a process. Actually, it's a production process. That's all it is. You're bringing in resources to produce something, to get a specific, tangible, deliverable or result. That's all it is. And if you manage it like that, for example, then you get it into shape. But nobody has done that.
Yeah.
For example, what are you supposed to deliver? When we go in there, the first thing we do is a collaboration system assessment with that perspective. For example, I will do meetings, Zoom, or either remote or in person. I will go into meetings. And even before the meeting, I will ask, if the meeting there are like 5 people, 6 people, I will ask individually, separately, can you please tell me what the objective of this meeting is? What the expected outcome of the meeting is? Most people have no idea. Yeah. They tell you what the meeting is about. Oh, we're going to talk about this. Yeah. We're going to discuss this. We're going to talk about this issue here. But if you ask them, okay, what is the stated deliverable that you get from this meeting? The tangible deliverable. It's all over the place. So you basically put together production lines without even being clear about what you want to produce. I begin right there.
Oh, wow.
So, of course, you get into a meeting and you waste half an hour, 1 hour, whatever, and the people are all over the place. Why? Because the fault is in the way you're creating the production and managing. So, to the point, our numbers after almost 20 years of doing initial collaboration system assessments, the numbers are interesting. In our data, usually less than 60% of meetings have clear stated deliverables.
Wow.
But it gets even more interesting. And let's bring it up to the organization itself. Why do you have workers? Why do you have teams? The answer should be so that they can produce outcomes of value that are going to take the company to growth. to where you want to be, right? So that's based on
Yeah.
objectives. What do you have to produce tangibly? Well, again, when we do the assessment, we ask people some very simple questions. Can you please tell me the objectives of your team for this month? As a team objectives for the month. Only 12% of people on average can answer that.
Oh my
So
gosh.
you're putting together teams to produce deliverables, but most of the people have no clue about what they're supposed to deliver. So they become totally reactive.
Wow.
I'm just waiting for them to what
Yeah.
to do. Or there's an emergency, I have to address it, or something came up and I have to deliver it. But there's no
Yeah.
clear it's not even long term. We're talking 1 month.
Yeah.
As a team, we have to deliver this. Or,
Yeah.
and it gets even more interesting when you ask people, okay, so thank you very much. Now, can you tell me, please, your individual objectives for this week for the team? Only 19% of people on average are clear about their objectives for the week.
Wow. 19%? You're saying for the week or just in
For the
general?
week.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Okay, what do I have to produce or deliver this week? They'll tell you
Yeah.
everything they got to do. I got to go to this meeting. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's just activity. What do you have to
Yeah.
deliver this week to the team, to the business? Less than
Wow.
19%. So right there. I always tell people,
Yeah,
okay, when I
that's
look
crazy.
my talks or speak, I always tell people, you got a bunch of people in your company riding around on their nice cars, nice little average cars, but they don't know where it's going. They're using
Yeah.
the car, wasting gas, going a little ways. Now they're thinking that now with AI, it's going to change. AI,
Mm.
I'm not going
Oh,
to change.
geez.
AI doesn't tell you what objectives you have to achieve.
Yeah.
That is part of a system that you have to establish, a
Yeah.
hard system of daily outcome management. But I tell when you bring in the AI, the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of people driving shiny new Ferraris, still not going where.
Still not knowing what they're
That's
doing.
going to
Yeah.
be more expensive.
That is absolutely incredible. Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're going to even have more chaos that like you're going to have your physical workers and now you're going to have these AI workers and they're not going to. Yeah, that's
So interesting,
unbelievable.
and that's why there's so much chaos in bringing in AI, because the initial system,
Yeah.
the human system in the organization is not
Yeah.
formalized, standardized.
Yeah, there's no foundation. Yeah.
So anyway, what we do is the first step to answer your question, I think, which was a long around way of saying this, but I have to explain it because it's very
Yeah.
It's doing a collaboration system assessment and putting in numbers, in hard data. How many meetings are tangible outcomes? How many meetings begin and end on time? How many meetings actually produce their stated outcomes? Talk about productivity. That's a measure.
Yeah.
What was this meeting supposed to produce or deliver? What did it produce or deliver? That's it. And again, it's not rocket science here.
No. Yeah.
If you're producing widgets
Yeah.
down the production line, production is how many widgets did you produce versus how many widgets did you have to produce for the day?
Yeah.
And how much did it cost you to produce them? Well, same thing here. There's no difference. And when you start managing it, and the other thing is how you solve it. But the first step is for leadership to accept that it's a system. Because the first ones to resist them, to resist the solution, are the leaders.
Wow.
Yep.
Man,
Do you want to know why?
I'm sure I could probably guess, but yeah, go ahead. No, tell me.
Because the solution, like in any other system, imagine saying, okay, this is how we have to handle the budget. This is complete. I'm going to use budget because everybody manages their budget. This is how you manage the budget. If you're going to spend money on a trip, these are the policies and the procedures and the rules. And I don't care if you're the manager or the CEO or whatever, these are the policies, right? So even if you're the CEO of the company and you're going to out to the production, to the factory floor, you will see them putting on their hard hats and the safety. Why? Because it's the rule, it's the norm, the safety norm. And I don't care who you are, you got to follow it. Well, the solution is the same. You're going to do meetings. This is the operating model for having meetings. These are the steps you follow. Let me give you an example. For example, when we go in there, we provide proven operating models. And the norm The first norm of operation of meetings that we implement is if you can't clearly set and communicate the tangible deliverables you need to get from the meeting, you cannot call the meeting, period.
Oh, wow.
Period. And if you get called to a meeting
Yeah.
that does not have a clear description of the deliverables that need to be covered, you can refuse to attend the meeting.
Oh, wow.
So of course leaders feel, I'm not going to do that because I'm prerogative of calling a meeting with whoever and whenever I want, because that's why I'm the boss.
Yeah.
So the moment that you start structuring the collaboration system, leadership feels constrained and goes like, even though they spend their whole time complaining about this stuff, they're the first ones to resist organization, discipline, and order. They are high up here, so they feel they should have the freedom to do whatever they want and manage people however they want.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. If they agree that they do want to have a finely tuned, high efficiency, incredibly running organization, they are the first ones that are going to have to go into that discipline.
Yeah, it has to be shown from the top down.
But not only that, if there's a norm or a standard, if there's a safety norm down on the factory floor, and the head of the company goes down there and they say, here's your helmet. He says, oh, no, I don't need those things. Of course, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, 100%.
Or if there's a compliance issue because, the IRS requires us to comply with presenting these documents every time you take a trip or whatever. And you come back and you say, I don't care. I don't need no stinking rolls. But over here, because everybody feels it's their prerogative to do meetings or send emails or make phone calls or manage people any way they want. Because, hey, that's why I'm the boss.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, it's a system, let's run it like a system.
It's interesting when you say that, because as you're saying that, it reminds me, just, not really going off, but it reminds me, if you were to watch doesn't matter, if you were to watch a soccer game, a football game, a basketball game, and you put all of those guys out on the court and you're just like, just do whatever, right? Just get the ball in there, and, like, it's chaos. And sometimes it does look like chaos, right? Especially if you're not really too sure, like, what's happening, right? I remember when I was younger, I didn't really know what was happening, right, in American football. I was like, what's going on? Like, why are these guys coming off the field, and why are these guys going on the field, right? But it's like, if you're not going to expect these 5 players on the basketball court to just kind of like, well, just figure it out. Although sometimes it seems like it, right? But you got to have a foundation. You got to have that. And the same thing, like, you got to have that foundation in business. Like, I think that is so cool what you just said about, like, hey, if the leader who is calling the meeting cannot have a stated outcome, and the people who are attending the meeting do not know what that stated outcome of the meeting is, then why are you having that meeting? And 2, you don't need to go. I think that is really cool. And to be honest with you, I would love to see what your data is on, like, how many times they really have to stop and think about that. That would reduce so many meetings that are just unnecessary.
The other part of this, and you just said something very important, how often do they have to think about this? We should never depend on that. That's what checklists are for. So we created agendas. Actually, there are agendas all over the place, meeting agendas. But we created a very simple one, which says title of the meeting, but then it says objectives of the meeting or outcomes of the meeting. And then you have to fill out like 5 little fields and then send it to everybody. What does that do? It allows you to not forget anything.
Yeah.
We don't even call them meeting agendas. It's a meeting coordination checklist. And then under it, I got this little space down here where you write down the outcomes and the tasks that were assigned, or the objectives that were assigned to each of the attendees, or the agreement stated. Because the only thing important about a meeting is either objectives assigned or agreements made. That's it.
Yeah.
So, operational documents. But the thing is, we create them as technical documents to manage it.
Yeah.
You will see, if you go to an airplane, you will see the pilots and co-pilot take out their checklist and go through the check. They probably go through those checklists 20,000 times in their life, but they still do not take off until they go and check the checklist and check on this, check that, check that. Checklists are the most important thing you can have in your life.
Yeah. I have like an email newsletter that I send off. And as I've been kind of doing things, I was like, you know what? So when I was like thinking about the podcast, when I was thinking about like maybe when I post on social media, and now I just sent a little while ago, I had sent an email and I forgot to change the subject line. And I'm not really too keen on the workflow of the email platform that I use. However, though, I have started to write a checklist, and I can tell you what I'm going to do right now is write a checklist to make sure that my email newsletters are correct. And yeah, it's so I'd like to blame the email marketing platform that I have, but really it's just like you said, these pilots have probably done it thousands and thousands and thousands of times, but they're still going to do it before they take off. Doesn't matter if they've been doing this for 2 years, 5 years, 40 years, they're always going to check their checklist because they're going to make sure that they're doing it right to make sure that everything is functional. Yeah, that's such a great word. I love that.
And here's a little anecdote for you. We still have time. There's a great book I recommend everybody read it. It's called the Checklist Manifesto by Atuka.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Okay.
Atuka is a surgeon, and he's been a hospital manager and all that. And some years ago, he started going like, medicine has gotten really complex, and all the new technologies, all the new specialties coming up and everything. It's gotten really complex, so we need great tools to solve them. And he found that the greatest tool in surgery was a checklist. But here's the punchline is more amazing. So he spent all his time looking at what were the mistakes that surgeons made the most often. Stuff like leaving something inside the patient, before close.
Oh my God.
Things like that. Incredibly happen quite often. So he made a checklist for the surgeons, not for the nurses, for the surgeons, of things not to forget when starting, during, and after that. And the nurses would go through the checklist with the doctors as the surgery was progressing. And they tried it out in like 7, I can't remember the name, how many, but they tried it in like 7 or 6 different hospitals. Some in India, very poor, some in the States, top of the line, all the technology. But the result overall of using the checklist was a reduction in inpatient death rates in surgery of almost 70%.
Oh my gosh.
So they took this amazing stuff. They were like, this is great. And they brought it to one of the most important conferences, surgery conference here in the States, and they presented their findings and everything. Crickets. Nobody wanted to hear about it. And he explains why. Yeah. He said, if this had been the latest technology or the latest machine to come up, all the surgeons would be on the case with their managers, a hospital manager, the directors, to get the new machine that costs millions.
Yeah.
But this is just a checklist.
Yeah.
And number one. Number two, I've been doing surgery for 20 years. I know what I'm doing. I don't need no checklist to tell me what I'm doing. And on the contrary, he found that the people with the most experience doing the job made the most mistakes. Precisely because they thought, I know how to do this.
Yeah, I got this.
So, and the same thing happens in businesses, in companies, in persons. If they give you that very simple solution, but that you feel puts into question your competency, your imagined competency or whatever, and you think, I'm not human, I'm superhuman, I never forget anything. I've done this so many times that I will never forget it or make a mistake. They go like, no, I need a new machine. I need AI to help me.
Yeah. Yes. I need all these shiny things instead of just kind of like, okay, what are the basics? Right. Yeah. No, that's
the book.
Wow. And what was the name of the book again?
The Checklist Manifesto.
Okay, cool. I think I probably heard of that.
And the final part of what I do, and the most important, we've been talking about meetings, but meetings are not really that important. I mean, they can be a headache and a huge waste of time. They're very costly. But the most important thing is how we manage outcomes daily. If you ask people how they manage their daily outcomes, nobody has a tool. But you said something. When you go into a meeting, you got to think about it. I tell you, no, we got to have a checklist. Well, the same thing for managing daily outcomes. People think that just because it's daily, they don't need to keep track of it or formalize it in writing. And on the contrary, It's so easy to get sidetracked from your objectives day to day. And
Yes.
it's so
Yes, it
easy
is.
not to understand or have a clear vision and keep focused during the week on what you had to accomplish during the week or by the end of the week. It is so easy to do, especially with all the shiny
Yeah.
distractions we have around us.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
if you don't have the right tool and the right framework and the discipline to use them, you just get lost into it. And that's what happens to most,
Yeah.
really. So the next thing
Yeah.
that we provide, or the first thing we provide, is daily structure for daily outcome management. What do you have to deliver?
Mhm.
It's, you've heard just do it, right? Just do it. This is,
Yeah.
don't think about doing things. Doing is not
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Doing is not important. Delivering is important. The question shouldn't be, what do I have to do today? The question is, what do I have to produce today? What do I have to accomplish
Mm.
today? It shouldn't be a to-do list. It should be a to accomplish list, to deliver list.
Mhm.
Because if you focus on
That's
what you need
cool.
to do, you're going to be doing all day long. What did you
Yeah.
deliver?
Yeah.
Actually,
That's a great word. I love that.
yeah. Actually, over 70% of teamwork issues happen either because somebody didn't deliver what they were supposed to deliver or they delivered it late.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, that makes sense because if you're just, yeah, if you're thinking, well, I have to do these things versus I have to deliver these things by this time. Yeah, that changes how you work.
And
And I think that that's such a,
I get
yeah.
presented
Yeah.
like that.
And I mean, even now even now I was kind of thinking about that. I will, you had mentioned, because we get so distracted, I will typically in the morning, I'll like, okay, these are the things that I need to do. Right. And I'll put like a star. Okay. I need to have these done. Right. I need to deliver these. But how often by the time that it's 1 o'clock or something like that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got distracted by this email. I got distracted by, there was a light outside and I went to go look at it because I'm like, to go see everything. So yeah, no, that's such a that's such a good word. And that's so, I like that. What do we, to have a deliver list instead of
But
a
it's a
to-do
change
list.
in
That's really
mindset
good.
also. It's the
Yes.
way of
Yeah.
thinking on things.
100%.
And that's how, I mean, as you mentioned, I lead a company. My company is called InSync, but I recently also joined or became partner with another business that was coming into here to the United States, and it's called Latam Division. What they have is amazing virtual assistants from
Yeah.
Mexico and Colombia, same time zone. I mean, they got some great virtual
Yeah.
assistants in Philippines and India. I mean, they're great. Don't get me wrong, but the time zone difference is a headache. So I love the model very
Yes.
much. Why? Because my thing, especially with small business owners or solopreneurs, my biggest challenge is to get them to be clear about what they need to accomplish and manage their outcomes daily so they can get rid of all the busy work and they can focus on really what they have to deliver. So that's the first thing. If you're a solopreneur, you're a small business owner, the hardest thing to have is, what is the shape that you want to have your business in by the end of the year?
Yeah.
Tangibly, in terms of that you can measure, you know, sales, response time, quality feedback or surveys. How does your business, how are you expecting your business to look like by the end of the year? See the vision of success, but in quantifiable terms. And from there,
Yeah.
what do you have to accomplish every day to get there in quantifiable terms? So that's the biggest one. But then once they master that, and it changes their lives, the small business owner, solopreneur. The next thing is, how can I effectively delegate stuff that is needed, like managing my LinkedIn profile, sending congratulations on managing and checking or doing postings and all that. Super important. You need to have it to create validation, to attract people, to make your voice heard, to have a presence, a strategy.
Yeah.
But sometimes that doesn't necessarily lead to getting clients, or you have to be out there meeting with
Yeah.
people, especially on these times. So this other piece of the puzzle I love, because I got my own virtual system with them, and it was like a game changer for me because I could delegate all this important stuff, important operational or maintenance stuff and then I could start focusing more on being out there in the places where the clients are.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said, okay, I want to do this. I want to bring this other tool into toolkit. So first thing is get your house in order, focus on the objectives, and then daily make sure you're accomplishing them. But once you get that discipline, now see what of those tasks that you're doing every day to accomplish that you can delegate, so you can dedicate even more time to the ones that are, bringing in the clients. Then you
Yeah. The thing that's actually getting deliverables. Yeah. No,
that's why
that's
I'm
great.
running that. And again, people ask me, okay, you're running and saying, doing this, running Disruptive Chart Houston, being part of Disruptive Chart Austin. How do you do it all? I do it all. And it's not a big pressure thing because I'm just focused on outcomes.
Yeah. No, I think that's super important. Like you said, it's a whole mind shift change. So Alberto, so you are on all these places. So, and I'll put the links in the description as well. But where online can they find
LinkedIn
you?
is always the best place. You can Alberto Garcia-Jurado, and you can just write in there, and you'll find me right there. It's always the best place. And if you send me a message, you'll get an answer within 24 hours. That's a standard. That's an operating standard. Any email or message I get, it gets answered in 24 hours maximum. So yeah,
awesome. Yes. So we'll put your LinkedIn in there, and then any sort of we'll have some more links in the description as well. Well, Alberto, I really appreciate you coming in and just really helping us kind of reframe our thinking versus, the shiny object syndrome versus, hey, okay, like what is the outcome and what are the deliverables? That is absolutely a game changer. And I hope that people really take that to heart and reach out to you. Alberto, thank you so much. I look forward to continuing working with you and seeing you around Austin in the area. And thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you, Roger. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.